Close your eyes and imagine a night with no light at all. No street lamps, no glowing screens, no switch on the wall, just a darkness so complete you cannot see your own hand in front of your face. For almost the entire history of our species, this was the world every single night. And against that darkness, humans had only one weapon: fire. This is the story of how we lit the night, the flames, the lamps, and the astonishing inventions that pushed back the dark in the long centuries before electricity. It began, as so much does, with fire. The moment our ancestors learned to control a flame, they gained far more than warmth and cooked food. They gained light. A fire on the floor of a cave or the hearth of a home turned the night into something survivable. Around that glow, people could work late, cook, mend their tools, and tell the stories that held a community together, while the fire kept the cold and the dangers of the dark at bay. For tens of thousands of years, the hearth fire was the beating heart of every home and the one reliable source of light after the sun went down, but a hearth stays in one place. To carry light with them, people made torches, a stick bound with bark or cloth and soaked in resin or fat that could be held aloft and carried into the dark. And for those who could not afford anything better, there was the humble rushlight, a simple reed stripped of its skin and soaked in leftover kitchen grease that burned with a small, smoky flame. A single rushlight might last only 20 or 30 minutes, and a poor family would light one carefully only when it was truly needed, letting the rest of the evening pass in darkness. A far older and steadier answer was the oil lamp. In its simplest form, it was nothing more than a shallow dish of oil with a wick of twisted plant fiber resting in it. Light the wick, and the oil is slowly drawn up and burned, giving a soft, steady flame that could last for hours. Ancient peoples all across the world crafted beautiful little lamps of clay and bronze, burning olive oil, animal fat, or fish oil. From grand temples to the most modest homes, for thousands of years the oil lamp was the single most common artificial light on Earth. Then came the candle, light you could hold in your hand, carry from room to room, and store away for later. The cheapest candles were made of tallow, rendered from animal fat. They worked, but they smoked, they dripped, and they filled the room with the smell of burning meat. The finest candles were made of beeswax, clean, bright, and sweet-smelling, but so expensive that they were reserved for churches, palaces, and the very wealthy. Making candles by hand, dipping the wick again and again into hot wax, was slow and patient work. People even used a marked, burning candle as a simple clock, reading the passing hours and the wax as it melted away. For all their warmth and beauty, these lights shared the very same weaknesses. They were dim. A single candle gives off about 1/100th of the light of a modern bulb. They were smoky and dirty, slowly blackening walls and ceilings with soot. And they were dangerous. A single flame left untended could burn a house, or even a whole city, to the ground. For most ordinary people, light after dark was a luxury to be measured out and rationed. When the sun set, much of the world simply went to sleep. The hunger for brighter light eventually drove people out onto the open sea. The oil of whales, and especially the waxy spermaceti taken from the head of the sperm whale, burned brighter and cleaner than almost anything else known. Spermaceti candles became the gold standard of light, and whale oil lamps lit the finest homes. This endless thirst for light helped launch the enormous whaling industry, sending fleets of ships across the oceans. And in the 1780s, a Swiss inventor named Argand reinvented the oil lamp itself, with a tubular wick and a glass chimney that made a single flame burn as brightly as half a dozen candles at once. The next revolution, though, did not come from oil at all. It came from gas. In the early 1800s, inventors discovered that a flammable gas made from heated coal could be piped underground through an entire city and burned to produce light. Soon the streets of London, and then of great cities everywhere, began to glow with gas lamps, lit and snuffed each evening by an army of lamplighterers carrying their long poles. For the very first time in human history, a city could stay bright long after dark. Streets grew safer, shops and theaters stayed open into the evening, and the whole rhythm of urban life began to change. Inside the home, another cheap and brilliant fuel soon arrived, kerosene distilled from petroleum. From the middle of the 1800s, the simple kerosene lamp brought bright, steady, affordable light to ordinary families right around the world. It was so cheap and so effective that it did something quite unexpected. It helped save the whales, as the demand for costly whale oil collapsed almost overnight. Meanwhile, inventors kept chasing ever more dazzling kinds of light. By heating a lump of lime until it glowed white-hot, they created a brilliant glare they called limelight, used to illuminate the stages of grand theaters, and the reason we still say that a star in the spotlight is in the limelight. Others began to tame electricity in its earliest, rawest form, the arc lamp, in which a spark leaping between two rods burned with a fierce, blinding brightness, powerful enough to light an entire public square at night. No, where was the pursuit of light more urgent than out at sea? 2 worn ships away from deadly rocks and shoals, engineers built lighthouses, and in 1822, a Frenchman named Augustin Fresnel designed a remarkable lens that could gather the light of a single flame and hurl its beam for miles across the dark water. That one invention saved countless lives, turning a modest lamp on a lonely tower into a beacon visible far over the horizon. And then, at last, came the light that would finally end the long age of fire. In 1879, after thousands of failed experiments, inventors including Thomas Edison and Joseph Swan perfected the incandescent electric bulb, a slender filament glowing safely inside a sealed glass sphere with no open flame, no smoke, and no risk of setting the room alight. As power stations rose and wires stretched out across the land, the simple switch on the wall began to replace the match, the wick, and the lamplighter. For the first time ever, light became clean, steady, and very nearly free. For almost all of human history, the night belonged to the darkness, and every small pool of light, a fire, a candle, a lamp, was something precious, tended by hand and paid for dearly. Today we banish the dark without a second thought, flooding our homes and streets with light at the mere touch of a finger. But the next time you reach out and flip a switch, spare a thought for the long journey it took to get there, the flicker of the ancient hearth, the soft glow of the candle, the lamplighter making his rounds, and the countless generations who pushed back the night. One small flame at a time. If you enjoyed this, subscribe, and we'll keep uncovering how people really lived before the modern age.